Welcome to my views and news. A viewer commented, he said, Sajid should say, I'm your host, Sajid. I think I welcome the viewers whenever I start a video. I think welcoming viewers perhaps is more important than introducing myself. People know who I am because I know the analytics, the subscribers who watch me and the non-subscribers. So most of those who watch my videos, they are regular viewers. They know me, I know them. And I know lots of you as well, through comments, through emails, through different media of communication. We stay in touch. So you're like a family for me. So I just welcome you. Three alarming news stories from different regions with implications if situations are not handled properly in these three zones. First news story is from North Shewa, where we have been seeing a limited operation by Ethiopian army to arrest Fano commander Blete Shigao. Second one is from southern Ethiopia, where millions could be affected by an epidemic. And third news story is from Tigray. Getachew spoke a few hours ago. He was seen talking to UN officials, UN Food and Agriculture Organization officials. And he said that Tigrayans would be sentenced to death if aid remained suspended. Details for you. Firstly, viewers, North Shewa zone of the Amhara region, where we know that Ethiopian army has launched a limited operation against Fano fighters. We have been seeing clashes close to Shewa, Majate, etc. It's not a full-scale operation, again I'm saying. We have seen limited clashes close to Shewa yesterday, day before yesterday. Now casualties are being confirmed. We don't know who are the killed people. Are they civilians? Are they Fano fighters? Difficult to distinguish between civilians and Fano fighters. Fano fighters are basically civilians. Several news sources are confirming 5 deaths near Rasa. Rasa is close to Shewa. And yesterday we reported that Ethiopian army had launched operation against Fano fighters in Rasa. 5 casualties being confirmed by several sources. Amhara sources claim that the killed are civilians. The Ethiopian army used heavy weapons, and some sources say that airstrikes were conducted, or drone strikes, near Rasa. 5 casualties being confirmed. Alarming thing is that several Amhara news sources are claiming that in yesterday's fighting in Rasa, local Oromo population supported Ethiopian army. Since several news sources, activists are sharing this information, that is why I thought I should speak on it. Why? Because if you remember, more than a week ago, I did some videos about Fano, North Shewa Fano, about Ethiopian army's operation in North Shewa. Back then, if you remember, I said that North Shewa is very sensitive zone. Oromia special as well. Why? Because we have seen clashes between Oromo and Amhara groups here in the past, several times last year too. Fanos and Oromo local population clashed several times. So this ethnic, this operation against Fano in North Shewa could turn into ethnic violence. Since Oromo locals are being accused of supporting Ethiopian National Defense Force, that is why it's an alarming development. It could lead to attacks on Oromo locals by the supporters of Fano, even Fano members themselves. That is why I have been saying that North Shewa should be handled very carefully by Ethiopian army. Are locals part of the operation against Fano? We don't know. I have no information. Why would locals support Ethiopian army? There are thousands of Ethiopian army soldiers deployed in North Shore. So it's not that Ethiopian army is facing shortage of manpower. Yes, for intelligence purposes, Ethiopian army could be relying on local support. Those supporting Ethiopian army locally could be Oromos, Amharas, etc. It's not that all Amharas support Fano. Some are fed up with this fighting, especially in cities of North Shore. They're not, some are not very staunch supporters of Fano. But we're starting to see a campaign against Oromo locals in North Shore by Amhara news outlets, which can have far-reaching consequences for ethnic harmony in this zone. So Ethiopian army should ensure that local Oromos living in North Shore are well protected. Otherwise, we could see start of ethnic clashes in North Shore. Second story is from southern Ethiopia. A UN organization today warned Ethiopian government and international community that 7 million people could be affected by cholera in southern Ethiopia if situation is not handled properly. Cholera is spreading like wildfire in Sidama, in southern region. It has entered Oromia as well, in parts of Guji, West Guji, West RC, Bale as well. Cholera cases are being reported. Around 6,000 have been affected so far, and 94 deaths confirmed from cholera. If situation is not handled properly, the UN organization says 7 million could be affected. So at this crucial time, when people are vulnerable to this cholera epidemic, where is the government? Why is that only international organizations tell us about the alarming situation in Ethiopia? Where are Ethiopian government's departments? Are the government departments focused? And by the way, Sidama and southern region both are faced with financial crunch as well. Yesterday we reported that the governments in the two regions were unable to pay salaries of some departments. So the two regions have already limited cash, and now they are facing maybe thousands of cases of cholera. It means federal government will have to rescue these two regions. I have been saying the federal government's priorities should change. People say, Sajid, you're interfering in Ethiopian internal matters. You shouldn't oppose the construction of palace by the Prime Minister, by Oromia President. But when people are dying of cholera, people are dying of hunger, you should question mega projects. You should question the lavish lifestyle of ruling elite. That is the responsibility of all. Government is heavily relying on foreign support for tackling emergencies like drought, like epidemics, like food shortage. In Tigray, in Oromia, in Somali region, international organizations are providing support to the people. When will the government be in a position to feed all these people, to ensure that all people have access to medical care? That should be the priority of the government. Lastly, viewers, Another alarming story from Tigray. Getachew Tigray interim president says that if aid remains suspended, it would mean that people of Tigray have been sentenced to death. He was talking to Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. He asked the UN organization to support Tigray's farmers. He said that Tigray's agriculture infrastructure had been completely destroyed deliberately, and now farmers are unable to cultivate their lands. So that is why they need fertilizer, they need assistance, they need seeds to cultivate, to farm the lands. I support resumption of aid to Tigray. Aid was suspended after World Food Programme, USAID accused Tigray authorities of being involved in aid diversion, in aid theft. Getachew ordered an inquiry, and so far he has not shared any details of the findings of the inquiry. What happened? Anyone identified? Anyone held accountable? I have no information. At the same time, he is putting pressure upon international community to resume supply of aid to Tigray. I think Getachew should play his role. It's difficult for him because we know that he is faced with internal political crisis as well. TPLF leaders are accusing him of being pro-PM Abiy. So he's not in a position to make big decisions in Tigray. He cannot make any big decision against TPLF leaders if they're involved in food theft. That is why maybe he's putting pressure upon international community, that international community should resume supply of food aid to Tigray. But World Food Programme, USAID, they want assurances from Tigray government that aid, food aid will not be stolen, and they want to know who stole the aid. That is why the stalemate is there so far. EU ambassador to Ethiopia, Roland Kobia, is in Tigray as well, a 3-day visit. He met with Getachew, he met with IDPs in Shewa, in Tigray. Let's hope that aid is resumed, and from now on there is some mechanism, transparent mechanism put in place to ensure that aid reaches the people who are in need of aid, who deserve to receive aid.
One of the most important areas we'd like to focus is addressing agriculture, because by addressing agriculture we are addressing the needs and the challenges of millions of people. The question of addressing the challenge of farmers in this region is also about addressing the challenge of the very economic foundation of the region. Of course, we have probably some of the most hardworking people in the world. It's very unfortunate what was the case 3-4 years ago is a far cry from what we see now in terms of people not being able to feed themselves. People who would otherwise have been in a position to feed not only themselves but also entire communities are now waiting for alms to come their way every 3-4 months. Even that has now been paused. It is a euphemism, pausing food aid for malnourished children, pregnant women, displaced people, as good as sentencing them to this. Now, if we have the right mix of support from FAO and other organizations, it could be on the delivery of fertilizers, improved seeds, even in help us in addressing mechanization in our mechanization efforts. That would mean raising the